We're going to be getting you ready for our season player previews. Throughout the next several weeks, we're going to be having several players that we're going to be discussing here on the show as we get you ready for
15 of them, I think.
All 15 of them.
Yeah.
That's right. That's a good number. For the Mavericks this upcoming year, we'll go through each of those player profiles each and every day here on DLLS Mavs. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe if you're watching right now, and do so by hitting that like button. Today, gentlemen, we're going to start with the center group, and particularly one of the two centers for your Dallas Mavericks, Bobby. And we're going to start with Daniel Gafford, the former Arkansas product, who, of course, came over to the Mavericks last year in the trade deadline, had a big impact on this team, especially defensively. Looking forward to his first full season with the Mavericks this year.
Dan the Man, Big Gafford, 11.2 points, 7 rebounds a game, almost 2 blocks a game. Shot 78% from the field after joining the Mavs, including a stretch where he hit, I think, 2,000 straight shots
Almost,
at one point.
just about.
It was more than that.
He's going to turn 26 before opening night. 2 years, about $27 million left on his deal. Now, in the playoffs, his numbers dropped a little bit, 9 points, 5.5 boards. Did have a really, really big Game 3 in the Western Conference Finals against Minnesota. But as the playoffs went on, it kind of became clear that maybe the Mavs' best center was the one that was coming off the bench. So as we go into Gafford's discussion here, I think, maybe talk about some good stuff that he did, and maybe what his role is going to look like moving forward.
He's a really good player for Dallas to have, just having the ability to do, have 48 minutes of this type of center next to Luka, pairing with Luka. I always describe these centers as extensions of Luka. He uses them to create basketball art and basketball magic. And that's, I think with Gafford, you definitely saw that. What really stood out to me is just he is so athletically, physically dominant. If you're going up, if the opponent just cannot match that, if you're playing a Chicago, a Detroit, a team like that, and he did last season, I believe. I don't know, just lost it, but it was a 7 of 7 and 9 of 9 in those 2 games, two games against Detroit and Chicago. He just destroys them. This is something that he is. If you do not have a center that can physically match up with him, Luka is going to, run pick and rolls to death. It should just continue. The success Dallas had beating bad teams last season. He should be a pivotal part of that.
Well, I think Luka and Gafford clicked to such a degree that Slovenia's national team immediately tried to convince Daniel Gafford to acquire a passport to join the national team.
I also
this
heard
summer.
about this. Yeah.
Now, Daniel Gafford.
It was Luka's dad's idea.
It didn't work out this summer because Daniel Gafford wasn't free. Don't be surprised, though, if that happens in the future, where we see, because, in FIBA competition, teams can naturalize one player, and we've seen Slovenia do it with American players in the past. Mike Tobey, this summer it was Josh Nebo. So that's how well it went for Gafford. That's how quickly he established himself in Dallas. But I think this season he will be coming off the bench. I think we all expect Dereck Lively to be the starter. The playoffs, there was some concern. He wasn't nearly as effective as he was. I mean, how could he be? You said the number, and it's like he shot 78%, 72% from the field for the season.
Right.
78% from the field as a Maverick in the 20-odd regular season games he played as a Mav. Even if those are all at the rim, still a damn good percentage that anybody would want to take.
I love that comment. Daniel will soon be Slovenian. Thank you, Patrick.
I can't read that comment. Where is it?
Oh, put it back
He'll
up.
put it back. He'll put it back. There you go. Daniel will still be in Slovenia.
Great comment. Great comment.
So, great first season, great start, but will, I would expect, move into a reserve role this season. And that, I think that's probably the better place. I mean, I think probably the most encouraging thing is just seeing how well he and Dereck Lively get along. Like, again, when there's pictures circulating last week about workouts in Arkansas, they're together. Like, these guys are theoretically competing for the same starting spot. And just last year, Gafford shows up, moves into the starting lineup. Lively embraces the bench role with no issues. And now this season, these guys are still hanging out all summer when it's expected that Lively is going to move into the starting lineup. and Gafford would move into a reserve role, and these guys are still always together. So I think that might be as encouraging as anything.
Yeah.
Something like 28-20, as a minute split as a platoon. People are going to be hurt, like
That's about what it was in the playoffs.
yeah. And
He played 20.2.
And I could see it being a sliding scale where Gafford plays more when he's just feasting against a bad team, whereas you're going up against a Indianapolis or somebody with a
Colts?
Indiana. Why did I say Indianapolis?
I don't know.
You're
That was-
so in football.
I was like, you are a football.
man,
guy.
you
I was
joined
like,
one
I didn't know
fantasy league, and all of a
Indianapolis had
sudden,
a basketball team. I know Indiana, the
But
Pacers.
yeah,
Man, are they going to rematch against New England in the finals this year?
Oh, good one. There you go.
But yeah, if you're playing up, you're playing against a stretch five, a stretch big man. That's a situation where the sliding scale may be 35 minutes to Dereck Lively. But there's a lot of flexibility here. You have options. That's important.
Yeah, and I agree that for that reason and many others, I think he's better as the backup. Lively gives you more versatility on defense, and also if the shooting thing is a real thing, maybe a little more versatility on offense.
Offense for sure, yeah.
But
Not
it
talking about
really
him yet.
was impressive to see him and Luka develop such good chemistry in the pick and roll, because there have been many big men that have come through this organization in the Luka era that should have been just as good in the pick and roll as Gafford was and weren't. That are maybe more athletic or taller or stronger or bigger or whatever, faster, that just could not figure it out. It's a timing thing. It's an anticipation thing. It's a go get the dang ball and finish it thing. There certainly is a lot of skill when it comes to finishing around the rim too, that some guys have really struggled with. But,
Yeah, he's just an
it was
awesome
just instant.
finisher.
Yeah,
was
he's a
instant.
fantastic
Yeah.
finisher at the rim.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why Dwight was so entrenched in the starting lineup for so long, because none of these other big men could figure it out for one reason or another. They just couldn't get it down. But it took Gafford like half a quarter against the Thunder in his team debut, and it was just you never had to worry about it ever again.
And I agree. Like there's a few big men that have come through that are a little bit more athletic than him, but this guy is a crazy athlete.
yeah, he's a
You
jumbo
know, like,
athlete. Jumbo athlete.
I'm trying to think back like.
But he's
Brandon
only
Wright,
he's only 6'9", 6'10", but he
yeah,
plays like
he's
he's
plays
7
much
foot.
bigger than that,
smaller
for sure.
than you would
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
I think he's also. I wouldn't say he's a better rim protector than Dereck Lively, but he certainly is going to get more blocks.
He's going to make some more of those splash blocks.
He
for
does.
sure.
He
yes.
chases blocks. A little.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Yes.
he goes for them too
Right.
much.
Yes.
I think you could make the case.
Yeah, he probably a touch, but sometimes the splash block is what gets you back into the game.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the momentum. It has the entire American Airlines Center going off.
Yeah, I mean, he had some blocks in the Wolves series. I mean, the one in Minnesota where he blocked it and then gets the Hail Mary to the other end, and then the one
The falling down scoop.
Yes.
yeah,
Layup, yeah.
and then the one in Dallas in Game 3 kind of sealed the game before his alley-oop, which was just that's one of the coolest plays in franchise history, throwing it down on Gobert like that. But yeah.
I think one of the things I appreciated most about Daniel Gafford and his approach coming to this team last year, and similarly to PJ Washington, both these guys got out of bad situations in Charlotte and in Washington. And for Gafford, just talking to him throughout the course of the year, he was just grateful to be in a situation where there was a vision and a plan for him. Much like for PJ Washington coming over from Charlotte, the Mavericks seemed like they had a vision and a plan for both of these players. We're obviously talking about Daniel Gafford here and what they knew that they could be within this offense and defensively as well. It does, I think, a lot for a player's confidence to know that, hey, there's a plan in place for me to be able to contribute. I could sacrifice being a starter in lieu of knowing what I can contribute to this team on a consistent night-to-night basis. I think Gafford fell into that perfectly, given the fact that they were trying to figure out between Lively and Gafford who was going to be that starting center. Gafford was able to appreciate his role and take it and be able to run with it throughout the course of the year and also be able to contribute in the playoffs as well.
He was a starter on the Washington Wizards. Would you rather be a starter on the Wizards or a backup on a team that just went to the finals?
Well, there was pressure on him last season, and I think, especially in the regular season, he lived up to it because they gave up a lot to get him. I mean, they gave up a first to get him. Remember, Washington was not able to generate an outright first-round pick when they traded Porzingis. They had no leverage in that situation. Porzingis was about to head to free agency. But also when they traded Bradley Beal to Phoenix, they were not able to get an outright first in either of those two. Yeah. So it's like,
That's
now
really
at
tough.
the trade deadline, it was really the Mavericks who were on the desperate side. So Washington did have the leverage to extract a first rounder. Remember, the Mavs had to make a deal with OKC to manufacture the extra first rounder to get Gafford because they committed the only other tradable first rounder they had. They committed that in the deal to get PJ Washington. So, Gafford they had to get production from Gafford if you're going to give up what they gave up to get him, because OKC, I mean, that was a sneaky good deal for OKC. If the Mavericks were to unravel, that would be a very valuable pick. But Gafford made a great year one impact. He and Lively are a great two-headed monster, and it worked.
And even if he does come off the bench for the entire season, right? Lively starts all 82. Luka plays so much with the second unit that it's going to be a lot of Luka and Gafford for the final 6 minutes of the first quarter, the final 6 minutes of the third quarter. They're going to be making music together. So I would think Gafford's per minute stuff probably won't drop at all. His per game stuff might not even drop because he's going to be just destroying backups all year.
If he stays out of foul trouble, that tandem with Lively and Gafford will be lethal all season. I think that's one of the big questions about Gafford too, is can he stay out of foul trouble to have that kind of impact that we're talking about, especially with him and Luka sharing the floor together. If that's the case, they're going to share a lot of good minutes together and really put pressure on opposing defenses because of the amount of rim running that the both of them, we're talking about Gafford specifically in this case, can do. That should make this offense, as we talked about before, one of the most efficient offenses, maybe the most efficient that we've ever seen. Is going to take contributions from Gafford to do that.
And you got defenders staying home on Klay, staying home on Grimes, maybe staying home on Najee Marshall if he can prove it. There's going to be maybe even more opportunities around the rim for them this year.